What's up, everybody? This is Justin, ABC Acres, and today we are talking about fence for your goats. So we're going to talk about all the different options of fence you have for your goats, what we use for our goats, and what works for us. So we're going to look at all that, and there's a breeze right now, so if the audio's not great, I apologize, but it's a super hot day here in East Tennessee, probably the hottest day we've had. So I'm gonna take a little bit of this breeze while I can get it. It's probably not gonna last long, but let's go ahead and get started. Let's go. Okay, so we're gonna start with a few options that you could use for goats, and some people do use for goats and they have good success with it. But for me, it's at the bottom of my list. And that would probably be barbed wire. So if you don't know what barbed wire is, it's basically self-explanatory. It's the wire, it's twisted, and it's got the little barbs that stick out every little bit. And if you're trying to put it up, it's probably going to tear holes in your gloves and your pants and shirts and all that good stuff. And a lot of people use it for cows, and some people use it for horses and other livestock, and works great. But for goats, probably just going to walk right through it. Those little barbs are not going to stop your goats. There are some people that run goats in barbed wire fence and probably do it with great success, and their goats don't get out. And I'm not saying that some of these options won't work for your goats, but it's probably not the best option. If it's all you have, you can try it. If you keep plenty of forage or hay and water inside the fence they're in, then they may never try to get out, as long as they're happy and satisfied and you have everything they need. If they start getting hungry, your pasture starts getting thin, or they just start getting curious, they're probably going to get out. So that's something to consider. It's probably, compared to some of these other options, not really expensive, but sometimes you just get what you pay for. So the next option you have, and it kind of opens up a little bit more here, is electric fence. So that kind of gets into some different options and some different ways that you can use that. And electric wire can be very effective with goats, but it has to be a very strong charger. So my understanding, and if you disagree or if you have a different opinion, you can leave that in the comments below, but when the goat gets shocked by the electric fence, the natural tendency of that goat is to run forward through the fence. So when that goat gets shocked by that fence, it's going to run forward, run through your electric wire, and then it's going to be out. So it takes a little bit of training, a little bit of work, so that they will feel that shock and then pull back from the fence and stay inside the boundary that you've made for your goats. So you can run just a straight slick wire electric, and Toodles, the miniature donkey, who was also mentioned in the last video where we had Caroline with us, his pasture, he's in an electric fence, just a couple strands, and works okay with him as long as you leave the gates locked. He will get out if you leave the gates unlocked or open, but he doesn't get out through the fence. He obeys that electric fence. He knows what it is, and it's no problem. Electric fence can also be used in more temporary type setup. So you could run some of the netting electric fence. I don't have personal experience with it, but I know people that have used it and they really like it. The one downside I see is storage and trying to set it up and take it down. It seems like it would get tangled really easy. So I have not tried that yet. I don't have any, but a lot of people use it. And I think as far as electric, that would work as good as anything as far as keeping your goats in, because it has the netting. It's not just the straight wire where they could run through. It has the full netting, and they're not as likely to run through that. So that's an option. Or you can run electric in combination with another fence. So you can run electric inside of barbed wire fence, or inside some type of a field wire, woven wire, and that can be a good combination as well. We'll get to that type of fence in a minute. We're talking about electric. So you do have a lot of options with the electric wire, and it can be really good. The key, when I was doing my research, when I was getting goats, and from what I've found is, from experience, make sure you have as strong a charger as you can get, the strongest charger that you can afford, and put as much juice through that wire as you can, so that the goats won't want to touch it again when they get shocked. And I think that is the key to success if you want to run electric fence. So I think that's all for the electric. Now we will move on to the woven wire field fence. So let's move on down to our goat pasture, and I'll show you our setup and give my opinions and thoughts on our setup, what I like and don't like, what I would have done different. So here we go. Let's go down here and wake the girls up. They're probably down here sleeping out in this hot afternoon day. What's up, girls? How's everybody doing? How are you doing today, Miss Clover? Poppy? Cinnamon? Everybody good? S'mores? Everybody been good to you, Mocha? All right, girls, we're down here and we're gonna show everybody how I keep you guys from getting loose on me. All right, we're here in the doe field, and now we're getting into more of the current fence setup that we have and use, and that I really like. So we run sheep and goat wire with 4x4 holes. So when you get into this type of fence, you can get all different sizes. You can get, I can't remember exactly how big they go, but big 6-inch holes, maybe even bigger, all the way down to the 4x4 holes that we have. And you can get 2x4 holes. So if we're talking what would be the absolute best, period, would be the fence with 2x4 holes. So then that way, nothing would get out of your fence. You wouldn't have any way that a goat baby would get out of a 2x4 hole. The young goats wouldn't get their heads stuck in the 2x4 hole. So that would be, in my opinion, the best option for fencing. But It is more expensive, and for the price difference, I couldn't justify, and we went with the 4x4. And I do know price has gone up a lot on all of this since we built our fence. So it's pretty outrageous. But anyways, so we run 4x4 hole wire, and we got a couple different kinds here, and I'll show you both kinds and which one I like better and why. We also run an electric wire around the bottom of the perimeter, and that's mostly to keep the does from rubbing on the fence too much and tearing it up. Honestly, the main reason I put it up is so that I could run cross fence in this field and section them out of areas if they were picking too hard in certain areas. So that was the main reason I did it. Some people run a barbed wire strand around the top, and some people will run one around the very bottom of this 4x4 wire so that nothing can push on the bottom of that and get in. Just gives it some extra security there. So you can see this is the 4x4 wire that we have. The 4x4 is the size of the opening in each hole. So what I was saying is some people will run a strand of barbed wire up here to help prevent predators from jumping in. And then we also run this electric strand on the bottom that I was just talking about. And then down here on the very bottom, like right in the dirt, from what I've seen, is where people will run that other strand of barbed wire that I was talking about. And that's just to keep predators from being able to push in and get up underneath your wire quite as easy. I don't have that because I haven't had predator issues, and hopefully that will never be an issue. Okay, we're gonna step back out of the pen for a minute so I can show you the two different types of wire that we use on these pens. The doe field has what is called hinged wire. So right here, it's just comes down, wraps around, next piece comes down, wraps around, and so on. So I haven't had any issues with it. I think it's gonna work just fine. The one complaint that I have with that one is, so the hinge wire, whenever you're trying to stretch it out and you are stretching it down your fence, if you're by yourself, I was running most of this by myself, and whenever you try to stand it up, it just collapses back down like an accordion. So it's hard to get to stand up against a fence post and tighten it by yourself, because the whole time it's just collapsing on all those hinge joints. So your wire's just folding down in the middle and you're trying to pull it up, stretch it out. It's not the end of the world, but that's the difference between the two. And that's why I would pick this other choice that we use on our buck field over that hinge joint. So the other option, and here's Indy. So this is the other, if it'll focus, it's hard to tell out here, and Indy's probably not going to help that very much. So right here you can see these joints are different, and if you cut these little joints off, so this is just one little piece that wraps around that wire, and these wires are solid pieces. That's one solid piece of wire all the way up, and then these wires are solid all the way across through the whole roll. They just use those little pieces and twist it around, and that's what holds it together. So this is the red brand sheep and goat wire, and this is the one that I like the best out of what I've used so far. So that detail would probably be pretty minimal for most people. Most people probably, maybe, won't be running that wire by themselves. and it would be less of a factor for that hinge joint versus that red brand that we have over there. So not a huge deal, but I'm just giving you my opinion, what we have and what I like the best. The last thing I'll hit on just real quick is a little bit of the installation of some of this fence. I know I just mentioned about the hinge wire versus this red brand, and the ease of putting the red brand up versus this hinged wire. But it's also a little different method than just stretching regular wire, obviously, because you can't just hook to one piece of this like you do barbed wire or a slick wire and just pull it, because it's not going to pull even. So I'll just try to show you real quick how we stretch it, and I think the only way I know of to stretch it. So when you stretch this wire, we used like 1x4 boards, probably. They're 1 by something, but 1x4 work great. So you get 2 1x4 boards, 2, not 1, 2 1x4 boards, and you're not helping my camera here. And you sandwich them around the wire, put one on each side, and then just run bolts through, and they can just hand tighten them. It don't have to be super tight or anything. And then we took a strap and come along, hooked to the top and bottom of those boards, hooked to tractor or truck, or if you've got a side-by-side or something with a winch, you wouldn't even need a come along. And then we use the come along hooked to my truck, and then you can slowly stretch your wire. You can go down the line and adjust it if you need to. You can check, make sure it's not hanging on anything, and just tighten it till you get the tension you want. And it's pretty simple. Lee's papaw actually already had 2 boards laying around with the bolts through it, so we had that to use. But if you had scrap 2x4s or anything laying around, it would work. It doesn't take a lot. Just something that you can kind of pull from the top and bottom all at the same time. If there's any shake effect, shaky camera footage on that last section video, all thanks to Clover. Thank you so much. And now you're peeing on camera. So the barbed wire, slick wire, that's single wire, is a lot easier to stretch and run. There are several different options. I have a small tool that hooks on the barbed wire. I don't remember what it's called, but I will try to look it up and link that in the description below. I'll try to remember to go through and link a lot of the tools and maybe the wire that we used in the description. So hopefully, if I don't forget, because I'm still newbie YouTuber, all that stuff will be in the description. If it's not there, leave a comment and remind me, and I can put it in a comment, or you can shoot me a message on social media or something and I can get it to you there. No big deal. All right, guys, I think that's all we've got today. It is so hot out here. I think the news said it's hottest day of the year so far. We're in like mid-90s, and it is humid as anything, and that's why I come back down here in the shade. So I hope this video will help somebody out. I know I was trying to do a lot of research, and there's so much information out there, and there's a lot of other YouTube videos out there on goat fencing and the way other people do it, and there are tons of ways, tons of different types of fence that work for all different people in different situations. This is just what works for us in our situation. I hear people talk all the time about they used to have goats and they never could keep them in their fence. They had to get rid of them. Or people say, oh, I never want goats. You can't keep them in your fence. They get out all the time. Mine don't get out. They just won't ever leave me alone. That's okay though. So yeah, I've never, oh gosh, knock on wood, I've never had a goat get out of my fence. I've had a goat get out of a gate that was left unlocked, but I haven't had any of these goats get out of my fence. My fence goes across creeks, and it's not stretched the best because I did not know what I was doing. And when I first put it up, I thought it looked really good. And I look at it now and think, man, that looks terrible. But that's just the way it goes, and that's the learning process. And if I ever have to do it again, hopefully it'll be better. But one last thing I want to mention about this style of fence we use that I think is super important if you're going to get goats. It reminded me when I was talking about keeping them in. This fence is also really good at keeping predators out. So barbed wire and all the other kinds of fence I talked about earlier, predators are going to come straight through that. They are not going to be stopped. Doesn't mean they couldn't jump over or find a place in my wire to get through or under. They could get through the creek if they really tried. They haven't. I do have a dog, the neighbor over here, that gets loose, and it runs along the fence sometimes. But that dog has never been able to get in my fence. So that is one more thing, it's a very important thing you should think about when buying fence, deciding what kind of fence you want. Make sure you consider that, because that is a very, very big deal if you want to have goats like all these girls. You're gonna tear up my watch. Seriously, now I think that's all I got. These guys are chewing me up. I think they must want the Poppy's over here licking the salt off of me, off my sweat, and Cinnamon's chewing through my watch. So we're gonna get out of here. Again, if you have any comments on goat fencing, if you have different things that have worked for you, leave those in a comment, because I would like to know, other people might like to know. So we're just I'm here to try to help if I can, but I'm also here to learn if somebody knows something that I don't. And there are a lot of you out there that know a lot more than me. So make sure you leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. We are halfway to our first goal. So I don't think I've ever talked about this. I don't talk about it much, but my goal is, my high goal is I would like to have 1,000 subscribers by the time we get to February 1st. So we're just a little over halfway there. We got plenty of time to get there, but I'd really appreciate it if you guys hit that subscribe button, like the video, and you can find us on social media at ABC Acres. And I think that's it. We're gonna go in the house and get ready, cool off for just a minute, and then Baker's got football practice tonight. I guess we'll see you guys on the next video. Anything you want to say, Clover? No, you just want to chew everything up. Hope you guys have a great day. God bless.